33-year-old Esme wondered whether Ivan was really serious about wanting to marry her. When she first talked to me about 6 months ago, she was concerned that it wasn't going to happen, but I knew because of what she relayed to me about how she started with him, how she behaved with him, how she kept her mindset in a very positive place, and how she carried herself throughout their relationship, that she would get this proposal, and certainly she did. Esme comes back on Make Him Wonder today to update us about how things went down and to relay the few missteps and misgivings she had that were of no importance, because she did 80% of what is necessary to allow for a man to feel what he needs to feel and for him to want to lock it down. This is what Make Him Wonder is all about, because when we strive to do 100% of what works with men, we get to that sweet spot of 80%, and then the 20% we won't much matter. I am so happy to announce this engagement for Esme, and you will get a lot from listening to her journey, and hopefully have a lot of hope that no matter where you are in your journey, you can get your dream come true. So without further delay, let's get right to this episode with Esme.
I feel like you've gotten me unstuck. I really needed that framework for going forward, and I feel like you gave that to me.
Whatever I've been doing hasn't been working. Might as well try a different strategy. Thanks to you, Paula. I'm glad I found you.
Thank you so much, Paula. I really do truly appreciate you. This was awesome.
Sick of sacrificing or settling in your romantic life? Welcome to Make Him Wonder with Coach Paula Grooms, where women struggling in real relationships ask the expert. Unscripted, unfiltered, understandable coaching conversations to help passionate women succeed in love.
Hi there, and welcome to Make Him Wonder. I'm your host, Coach Paula, a dating and relationship coach for women, social worker, and author of the book, Why Won't He Commit? How a Man Decides to Make You the One. I help you find a Mr. Right, get an ex back, or grow an existing relationship with a man you truly desire, so you create the relationship of your dreams and then level up to the complete commitment you totally deserve. Back from Season 4, Episode 23, my guest today is 33-year-old Esme. Esme and I talked here about 9 months ago, and once subsequently about 6 months ago, regarding her relationship with 37-year-old Ivan. Then a few weeks ago, my assistant received the following. Hi, Michelle. I was once a guest on Make Him Wonder. I've been an 80/20 Wonder Club member for over a year now, and I wanted to share the good news with Paula that Ivan and I are engaged as of this weekend. A lot of it is thanks to Paula's methods and coaching. I wanted her to know her work matters and has made a difference in my life. I gained so much from talking to her on the podcast and having a session with her a few months later. Being a club member and following her has forever changed the way I view romantic relationships and my role in them. I've been spreading the word to my girlfriends who have been struggling in the dating world, and I hope they take my advice and seek out Paula's work. It was wonderful to get Esme's note, so in an endeavor to let you know that doing this work works, I wanted to be sure to have Esme back to update us on how her engagement transpired and personally give her my well wishes and congratulations. Welcome back and congratulations, Esme.
Thank you, Coach Paula. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, I want to hear how this all played out for you and catch up with you since our private talk about 6 months ago. But first, I think for our listeners, it might be helpful to go back a little bit and hear a little bit of our discussion about 9 months ago when you were, if memory serves me correctly, you had not yet had sex with Ivan. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That was about 6 or 7 weeks into dating him.
And that led me to know that things were really on track for you because you had guided it. And I was hearing things that you were telling me he was saying that also led me to believe that you were going to get what you wanted. But if I recall correctly, you were not as sure.
It's not that I wasn't sure about him and about us from pretty early on, but it's that I didn't want to veer off track like I feel I have in the past, like getting too comfortable or maybe expecting too much too early. When I called you 6 or 7 weeks into us dating, things were going so great that I wanted to keep them going so great.
I love that. That's a great clarification. But I remember saying this, and you had a bit of an aha moment. We're going to play that. What do you need to know, have, etc., in order to feel comfortable?
I would need to know that he has fairly strong feelings for me. I would need to know that he sees me in some way, shape, or form in his future. And, you know, when you know somebody for 2 weeks, seeing a person in your future might mean, yeah, I can see us being together in 3 months from now. You know, things are new. So I don't necessarily mean, you know, lifelong future. I think it depends on where you're at in the situation. I would need to feel like I'm a priority. I would need to feel like I'm respected, like I'm not being pressured. I would need exclusivity, which I do have with him, and just like an overall feeling of emotional safety.
So what's missing for you?
That's a good question, Paula. Yeah, I remember.
What were you feeling at that time?
My biggest fear at that time was getting too enamored with how great things were going and really like letting myself get too comfortable. And then either we have sex or something else happens to where things shift, and that those strong feelings from the man that are, you know, they're so strong in the beginning that, you know, somewhere along the lines it kind of wavers and then things flip around.
Right.
I think that was ultimately my fear.
Got it. And then having, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but having someone objective like myself just simply stating to you, so what's missing, gave you an aha moment. What was that for you?
I think the aha moment was that nothing was missing. And that I think something else you helped me come to the conclusion about during this conversation was that it is different from the other dating scenarios I was in. And I think I was originally making comparisons of him and past exes and how previous dating scenarios, they did that emotional flip-flop, or I did get less as time goes on. But the reality is that the scenario with Ivan, I had everything that I was wanting and that it was going in the right direction.
That is such an important realization. As humans, we tend to go back to what we have experienced, and it's an absolutely natural thing to do, and it takes something a little different, maybe like our conversation or something of the sort, to give us one of those moments of just, oh, yeah, this is different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why your objectivity was very helpful in that scenario, because I couldn't really answer your question when you asked me what was missing, because nothing was missing.
Right, and that is the difference between a truly objective person like coach, therapist, counselor, etc., and family or friends. Generally speaking, family and friends don't speak to us, especially girlfriends or mothers, and that's generally who we're talking to, like in that fashion, like what's missing.
Yeah, I agree, because mostly they just kind of agree with you and they're on your side generally.
Yes, and that's the way it works and should be in the best case scenario, that you want that kind of support. And hopefully, if there is any woman on the fence about what can I really be helped with in even one coaching conversation, It's simply that you can be asked the questions that allow you to make a different assumption. And for you, Esme, once that occurred, did it relieve you a little bit in going forward, meaning relieve some of that anxiety or worry that this wasn't different? And B, if so, did it last?
Yes, it did sort of relieve me in some ways, as far as like, okay, I'm really worried about nothing. I'm probably being too influenced by my past occurrences in dating and my programming as a child, which I know you talk about frequently. Did it last? Yes. I feel like I don't have any sort of anxiety regarding my relationship or where it's going whatsoever.
So take me back when we spoke maybe 3 months later. You were now really into the relationship and you had moved forward, you had had sex, and things were going along. Take me back to that conversation.
So if I remember correctly, I had called you privately for that conversation because, again, things were still going well. We were about, I'd say, 4 to 5 months into the relationship, and I was at the point where I was considering introducing him to my family. At that point, I think he had only met my best friends, a couple, and my parents live in the area, so I wanted to get your insight on when to introduce him to my parents.
So what was my advice to you then, and what actually transpired?
So I think we needed probably another session or two to really get to the answer. I think you needed more information and more context from me. So we didn't really come to a conclusion. So I kind of just put it in my back pocket for the time being, and I let things kind of happen naturally. And then he ended up meeting my family. It kind of wasn't my idea. I think it was kind of more his idea. And of course, my parents really wanted to meet him. So we did have a nice sit-down dinner with them, and it went really well. And actually, like a week or two later, my brother was in town. He lives in a different city. He came in with his fiancée. None of us in the family had ever met her, so it was all our first time meeting her. And Ivan actually suggested hosting everybody, kind of a little engagement party at Ivan's house with my family and brother and his fiancée and my best friends. And so he, at that point, met my whole family. And it was a pretty wonderful experience. I was a little nervous, since he had never met my brother or his fiancée, and he had just met my parents and only spent like 2 or 3 hours with them. But ultimately that experience, both of those experiences really confirmed that I was moving forward in the right way, and I had no regrets about introducing him whatsoever.
So what I'm hearing, and I really like this, is that you went with your instincts on it from all the work that you had been doing, and you felt confident in doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of just went with my heart. I definitely wanted to take into account your lack of confidence in me introducing him to my family. I wouldn't maybe say lack of confidence, but maybe you're needing more information. And that's why, I didn't really move things forward. And then when it was 3 or 4 weeks later and he suggested going to dinner and everything, and I kind of just went with it, and it felt right.
That's wonderful. And it is why I say even just learning from listening and starting to incorporate the concepts, the knowledge, acting on them, you move the needle, and you allowed space for him to take the lead. And by him doing that, via his suggestion, you realized, okay, it's time, I can go with that.
Yeah, exactly. And he had been kind of hinting at it for a while. He's called my parents his in-laws since about 3 months into dating, which I have mixed feelings on. Now, looking back, it makes me smile and everything. But yeah, he and just all of his actions throughout all of our time dating, I knew that it was not going to turn out badly in any way.
That's interesting. What was it that made you uneasy 3 months into dating when he was calling your parents his in-laws? What was that feeling?
Don't get me wrong, when he would say it, I would smile and chuckle just like I did just now, and it made me happy. But then on the flip side, it kind of makes me think about other scenarios. As women, we get told a lot of things by men, and we get told a lot of empty words that don't mean anything. We kind of learn the hard way on that. So part of me was like, oh my gosh, he's calling my parents the in-laws. That must mean he wants to marry me in the near future. But then the other part is like, those are not his in-laws. We are not married. He doesn't get the privilege of calling them his in-laws because I'm not his wife. I'm not his fiancé. I'm only his girlfriend. So those two poles were kind of fighting with each other internally.
Yes, I understand that conflict. And here's what I can say about that. Ivan is 37. He might have been 36 when he was doing this. I don't know if he's had a birthday or not, but it doesn't matter. He's in his 30s. I dare say that both sides of this coin are true. You're right. Men do say things in the moment because they are on top of time. And when a pretty puppy is in front of them, just like we see the puppy on the street, it comes up, it licks us, and puts its paws on our knees, and we bend down, and we say, oh my God, you're the cutest thing, I love you. That's what happens to men. However, any man, I believe, who's had any dating experiences at all, will not use words or phrases that will come back to haunt him in such a big way that he can't unravel it. For example, I want to marry you. I'm going to marry you in the future. You're going to be my wife. In your case, my in-laws. I want to build a life with you, a family with you. I want us to have a baby. And many times, dependent upon the man and where he is on the scale of being more open and vulnerable or having less of a frontal lobe, things like, I love you or I'm in love with you. It's very different than things like, I'll text you, I'll call you, let's go on another date. Even things like, I want to see you again. There's a host of others. But do you see the difference?
Yeah, I think you're kind of deciphering between comments about big commitments versus just minor commitments that somebody might not actually hold you to, like the text or the call or seeing you next week or something.
Couldn't say it better myself. That is absolutely it. Because men have experienced the backlash that comes from those types of huge, more on the scale of commitment stuff that leads to nothing good if they are not secure and committed to following through on it. It sounds like you handled things very well. You said you smiled to yourself and you took it in, but correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't ask any questions about it and you didn't challenge him on it. You didn't say what you felt on the one side, which was, wait a minute, we're just boyfriend and girlfriend. You can't call them in-laws. You never said that kind of thing, correct?
Well, one time I did. In the, 20 times this happened when we were just boyfriend and girlfriend, I smiled and you're right. I didn't challenge it. I didn't dig deeper. I didn't use it as an opening to discuss the future. None of that stuff. I just kind of took it at face value, lighthearted, cute chuckle. However, there was one time when he called me his wife. And that's when I kind of snapped back a little bit at that, when I was like, I'm not your wife, though. I'm your girlfriend. But every other time before that and after that, I just took it as a cute little, kind of inside joke and maybe a hint of intentionality toward the future. But I will say he never called me his wife after that one comment I made. But he did make the same comments about in-laws or calling my brother his brother-in-law and things like that.
This is so wonderful. What you just outlined is the essence of 80-20. 80% of the time, maybe even more in this case, you didn't challenge him on it. One time when he used the word wife, which was a little different, there's a little subtle difference in that, you challenged him in a sexy mother fashion. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. I think sexy mother might be a little too generous and maybe too graceful for my reaction in person, but it wasn't anything. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry, but it was kind of a strong sentiment, and I think he felt it from me.
Got it. Again, you were doing so much right that the little bit that wasn't perfect doesn't matter. That's the beauty.
Yeah, exactly.
So I commend you, congratulate you, am so happy for you. Tell us now how it went. Take us through how he met the in-laws prior to marrying and how it went forward from there.
After the engagement party with my family, it was a really nice barbecue. He wanted to buy like all of the food for everybody, and it was really sweet. He did a lot for my family, and I could tell like he's probably not doing all of this and spending all of this money and going through all this effort if he doesn't view this as his future family. So that was a big thing for me. Since then, it's been great. It's still going in an amazing direction. And really the next noteworthy thing was a couple months later. This was at the end of May. We went on our first vacation together. We had never even done like a 2 or 3 night little vacation in a city close by, nothing. He had just been over my house probably 2 nights in a row every week, and that was it. So this vacation, our first vacation, was a 7-day trip, 7 nights together, or maybe 6 nights together, but a good amount of time, and also kind of a road trip built in there, so we spent a lot of time together. But rewind about a week and a half before this trip, and I text him something along the lines of, I'm so excited for our first vacation together. He responded with, he's so excited too. But the thing that sticks out the most in my mind, and I probably will never forget this, his second text was saying, I'm ready, and a couple giggly emoji faces with the hand covering the mouth, followed by a ring emoji. And I know your next question, Paula, would probably be something along the lines of, well, how did you respond to that? Well, in person, I'm like, my jaw has dropped. I'm smiling, giggling, laughing to myself. The way I responded, I just said like, ha, 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 babe. And I put like those double eye emojis where the eyes are kind of like inquisitive, like curious eyes, and then followed by the like covering my eye, like the monkey covering its eyes emoji, kind of because like I'm really curious, but also I'm not supposed to really know what you're planning here. So he didn't really say much after that other than like, LOL, but really I'm so excited for our trip together, babe. So here I am on this vacation with my boyfriend. It's going so well. Really, I could not have asked for a better vacation experience with my boyfriend. And actually before the trip, the night before the trip, he hands me a handwritten letter with all sorts of nice things about how, he can't believe it's already been 8 months, but yet he feels like he's known me forever. The way he makes me feel is incredible, and he hopes that he makes me feel the same way. All these great things, right? So I'm going on this vacation thinking my boyfriend is about to propose to me. And, we have a lot of good moments together where I'm like, okay, this is not the moment. That's fine. Several days pass. We're about like halfway through our trip, and I'm like, my birthday already passed. Nothing happened. I wonder when this guy is going to do it. Long story short, I tried to not get in my head too much about it. And when I got that text, I was like, okay, this is no guarantee. I'm hopeful, but I'm not expecting. So last night of the vacation, I pretty much had come to terms with he is not proposing on this vacation. And it was hard for me to balance these emotions of this is such a good vacation, and it wasn't just me on my side. He had said during this vacation, like on the last day, he had told me, he was like, this has made me love you even more. Like I had high hopes for our vacation, but it's even better than I expected. He said, I feel so loved. And I think at one point he actually kind of started tearing up. So again, I was so happy to hear those things, but then on the other side, I was so confused. But I told myself, I'm not going to ruin this vacation. I'm not going to bring this up. It was kind of eating at me a little bit, and I know he could tell something was amiss on that last day and a half. But again, I tried to keep my spirits high. So when we got home, pretty much within the first hour, I did bring up the text. Now, I told myself, I said, because I didn't want this trip to be overshadowed by this uncomfortable conversation. So I told myself, okay, you need to wait till the weekend, which was going to be in 2 or 3 days. But honestly, Paula, it was eating me inside, and I had to bring it up. So once we get back from the vacation, we're at home, we're kind of unpacking things. I said, hey, Ivan, I need some clarification on a text that you sent me. And he was like, yeah, show me. And I was, sitting here trying to find the text. And I showed it to him, and his eyes kind of got big. And it was kind of like a little kid who was just having fun who got in trouble. He was smiling, but he also had this look of guilt about him. And ultimately, at the end of the conversation, I was confident that he did see me as his wife and that he's going to be my husband one day. But it was a little bit of a wishy-washy conversation because I was like, why would you send me that text if you weren't going to propose? And his answer was like, you're right, I should not have sent that text. I wanted to see how we traveled together. And I said, that makes perfect sense, but you should not have sent that text when we were specifically talking about the context of our vacation. I think it would have been different if we were just in general chatting and he kind of sent a ring emoji and I couldn't really determine the time frame. Maybe he's just telling me in general he's ready. But we had a pretty good conversation, and I know he regretted sending that message, but he did kind of assuage my anxiety a little bit that something is coming. He needs help with planning. And so I told him, I'm a little upset that you kind of led me on. I felt led on, even though part of me, again, I had no doubts that he was eventually going to propose to me and that this man is my husband. But at the same time, why did you lead me on to believe that you would propose on the vacation? So now I have this great vacation experience, which is wonderful, but it's kind of overshadowed by this disappointment and the confusion that I was feeling on the trip. I was very confused, like I said earlier. So I did make sure he knew that I was a little hurt by it, no matter what will or will not transpire in the future, that kind of hurt me and confused me.
So this is a very good illustration of our programming and our experiences from our programming, a la being let down and not trusting, precipitating a glitch and a little ding to the patina of your relationship that didn't need to happen. Here's what I mean by that. Again, if you understand that those kinds of commitment statements from a man do not happen unless they have intention. And if we had talked then, tell me what you think I would have said to you prior to you having that conversation with him.
Oh my gosh, Paula, I'm laughing because I almost called you right after the vacation to ask you how to handle it. So anyway, let me put my Coach Paula hat on. What would you have told me to do? You probably would have told me to just completely ignore it and pretend like I never even got that text.
With a caveat, yes. So you would not confront him verbally at all, because generally speaking, not much good comes out of it. But again, we go back to 80% is great. So the 20% that we make mistakes doesn't much matter if those mistakes are not so egregious. And in this case, it wasn't. I'm just here to lay out what would have been best. And the caveat is, I would have told you, no need to say anything at all. It's happening because of what we are outlining here today. No man over the age of 25, even less likely, 22, 21, is going to be stupid enough or immature to the degree that he would send you something like that text without already having made 80% of that decision, and he will follow through if you continue to pass the tests. And that can seem harsh, especially when there have been, like for all of us, dings to our self-concept, worthiness, lovability, subconsciously. That natural, very childlike pushback to pass the tests, that's awful. I should just be enough, worthy. There's no tests to pass. That's natural and normal to feel. But make no mistake, in adult love relationships, we do put each other through tests. And yes, I would have recommended to you at that time, simply from my objective knowing, it's happening. And if you don't confront it, it will simply happen faster. And if you don't do anything, it's absolutely happening. My 5 gender gaps. One of them being women live via their emotions, men live via their decisions. And the mark of a man, for men, is their decision making. And the decisions show either success or failure. Men, their brains are black and white. I'm either a success or I'm a failure. This isn't true, but that's how the male brain tends to function, and this is functional for men being hunters. It's very clear as a hunter whether you succeed or whether you fail. And evolutionarily, success meant you and your genes lived on. Failure meant you died. It's that profound in the male brain. It's just they extrapolate it or morph it over into the modern world. A man choosing a wife and us choosing a husband is the most profound decision that impacts our life. Above everything else, I would say that the only thing being equivalent would be whether or not to have children. It's not where you go to school, what you decide to do for a living. No, because those things can change easily. In other words, you don't go to the best school for your undergrad. Well, you grow and you decide, well, I didn't want to do that anyway. You do something else. Or I'm going to go get a master's at the best school or whatever. You're going to work it out. But you marry the wrong person, you have children or not, or with the wrong person, and you can really set yourself up for a lot of failure, a lot of loss, a lot of pain. So he had made this foundational decision. He needed more tiny steps to just pull the trigger. And as long as you knew and stayed in the state of knowing that that was happening, it all would have just come out without the little ding. And that's the operative word here, Esme. Little ding of the chastising him for sending something so vulnerable to you, loving, sweet.
Yeah, and one thing I got to understand through talking with him about it and just looking back on our relationship as a whole, even though I feel like he has led the relationship in a good way, in a way that I wanted a man to lead the relationship, it's also, in the big steps of our relationship, I know that I think he has needed validation from me in certain ways before, fully jumping in to that next step. So I understood it through talking with him and again through reflecting on previous scenarios in our relationship that was kind of his way of getting an approval from me. And one of the things he said was that was his way of trying to open up a discussion about it. Of course, to which I said, when I've had to bring things up to you, I come to you face to face and in person. I think that's the best way to speak to somebody, especially about something so big. And again, he understood that was not the best way to go about it. But yeah, he was excited and he did kind of want to let me know what's coming.
Mm-hmm. I think that the yin and yang and the opposites here benefit us, even though they can seem insurmountable at times or the most frustrating thing about relationships. But if we go back to one of my fundamentals, women live via their emotions, men live via their decisions, we can see the value of a man wanting to come to an absolute decision and then not wavering on it. It's very important, actually, that, and even the reason why we want the man to show the world this commitment. And when I say the world, I mean even if you cannot have a marriage or you choose not to have a legal marriage with the state or your country, what have you, you as the man need to formally stand up with that woman and show, I made a decision. This is my decision. Right here in front of me is my decision. And I commit to living up to the responsibility I see commitment as being. Remember, another of my gender gaps. Women view commitment as a natural outgrowth of love. Men view commitment as a responsibility. And men, in their world, the competition they feel with other men, jockeying for position, is my decisions are the best and I don't fail. What would make me a woman is to live by my emotions and to not live up to my decision. This is why we see nearly 80% of divorces brought to the courts by women, because men, even if the marriage is awful, will stay in it. Why? They want to show the world, I don't make bad decisions, and I am not a pussy in that when things get tough or uncomfortable or awful, I don't just bail, because that's what women do. And above all, for men in the world, they are always proving one thing: I'm not a woman. When we understand this psychology, we help ourselves and them enormously, and we can more readily trust their words, like we said here, when they are about something significant, commitment. One of the problems I see women getting themselves into is that we hold men to a standard with the small things that is almost harmful. For example, he says, I'll text you later, I'll call you later. Those things, while annoying if and when he doesn't, are not significant. It is the degree to which he does it. And women have, generally speaking, a very low threshold for this kind of thing. And what I can tell you here is that you have to take into account when a man says those things, because he is a hunter and on top of time, he reacts right here, right now to whatever is in front of him. When he says, I'll text you later, you have an idea of what that later means within the context of how he's behaved previously. The later means tonight. The later means an hour from now. Whatever that later means. And if he doesn't follow through, you believe he intentionally lied about it. He's not to be trusted. He doesn't live by his word. And this hurts us because we are not understanding men and not holding ourselves in a place whereby we can then show the man how to behave, not to tell him. But what is happening now, and one of the very dangerous things about using AI, for example, going in and asking AI, how should I answer my boyfriend who said he would text later and he hasn't? And it will spit out some very directive thing, albeit maybe nice, and then the woman sends it. Not good, because men relate via action. So the better thing, as we know here in the 80-20 Wonder Club, listening here, knowing what we do, is you wait. When in doubt, wait him out. He texts, and then you show via action, not words, which is he doesn't text till the next day. What do? You don't text back. He's going to text again because it will make him wonder, and then you might get him to understand what's occurred, and this is via action. You don't have to say it. Say, oh, sorry I didn't call you last night. this is what happened. The waiting serves us because it invokes wonder and invokes the man understanding in a way that confronting doesn't.
Lots of thoughts here. Looking back, yeah, I do wish I handled it differently. I feel like in my logical brain, I knew I shouldn't bring it up, but I think it just comes back to my programming of needing some sort of explanation, confirmation, validation of why he texted that, even though I knew logically that was probably not in my best interest, although I am fortunate that it turned out to be in my favor.
Right, well put. Exactly. And we have to give ourselves grace, because what happened to you is, again, another one of my gender gaps. These are all in my book, if anybody needs to know. Women love through knowing. Men love through wondering. It is a driver in us to know. It's biologically based. In the same way, their stuff is biologically based. It's just opposite. Because we, as the weaker sex, through all of our time here on the planet, need to be shown that we are safe, secure, can count on that male being. This is what evolutionarily we had to do so that we got a good pair bonding to procreate and keep the species going. So again, we get back to, because you had the foundation of 80% that was all good, this little glitch, this little ding in the patina meant very little, and you can just gloss over it. It's all good, it's all fine, you've got the engagement. Let's hear how that went down, how soon after the vacation it actually was.
So actually, it happened pretty shortly after the vacation. I'd say a week and a half, I think. So what normally has happened in our weeks, just based on our schedules, he will come over like on a Saturday evening and stay through Monday because he's off on Mondays and I work from home. And about a week later, I had given him a heads up. And I think this is kind of me backpedaling because I know through following you that women relate via verbalization, men relate via action. So one thing I told him was that this weekend, like, I'm celebrating my birthday with my best friends, and me and him had celebrated on the vacation. And basically I had told him that I need to spend the weekend with my friends and my family, and it was Father's Day that Sunday as well. I was celebrating my birthday on Saturday. So I basically told him, like, I won't be able to see you this weekend. And I kind of just left it at that. And he was totally fine with that, didn't ask any questions. So that Saturday comes around for my birthday. Me and my friends, we had planned a lake day, get on the water, do some paddle boarding, some grilling, things like that. And we get to the lake. Well, some of us get to the lake, but my best friend, she said, oh, I'll come later. Like, I have to pack up stuff. And she does have a little one. So I wasn't too surprised, but after about an hour or so of her not getting there, I was like, where are they? Anyway, one of my friends took me out on a 2-person kayak, and we were out there for like 30 plus minutes, and she was trying to get me to go super far away in the lake. And I was like, I don't think we should go over there. There's like boats speeding by. It didn't look safe. But then she was like, okay, let's go around this island over here. So, and part of me was like, I'm ready to go back to the shore, but that's fine. Let's just go over here. Basically, she was trying to get me or keep me out on the water for as long as possible. I come back, I'm approaching the shore with her, and I see one of Ivan's close friends taking a photo near our tent. I was like, what is this guy doing here? And that's kind of when I knew, like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's proposing to me. And then I get closer, and they had decorated the tent nicely and laid out rose petals, and there was a marry me sign and lights and photos and lights strung around the edge of the tent. And it was kind of cute, kind of intimidating a little bit because there were probably 60 people near near the tent on the lake that were watching. And, when I was on the lake, they were all coming, what's going on? What's going on over here? Because there was so much hustle and bustle setting up the tent and stuff. So anyway, it was kind of on display for a lot of people, which is not my ideal situation because I'm pretty introverted, but it was a very sweet moment. And then I even saw after he actually proposed, I'm hugging him and then I'm looking past his shoulder and I see my parents over there. So he had, really included all the people in my life that were close to me. So it was a really, really sweet experience.
That is so lovely and wonderful. I am so happy for you. He made it super special because it is so big for the man. It's not just something we do out of emotion for the man. It's something we do very decisively, pointedly, intentionally, and it's something you will always remember.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
So great. I couldn't be happier. You've done a lot of work. Marriage necessitates that we continue that work. In other words, it's not like, okay, we're getting married, now everything's okay and we can let our hair down and never have to hold ourselves back, continue on this path. No. Marriage is just the next step and a continuation of it. I work with many married women, and then especially when children come into play, which is incredibly stressful for any marriage. It's wonderful, but it's also stressful. We, as women, are the mechanics of a relationship, just like men, generally speaking, are the mechanics of our cars and other mechanical things in a relationship. We let them lead it, but make no mistake, in both, you have to keep things well-oiled. We have to go in sometimes for little repairs. Definitely keeping things tuned up. You have laid out the foundation very, very well. I'm so happy. I give you my congratulations. I really want the best for you. Are you two planning on having children someday?
Yes, we are. We actually talked about that, and it will be sooner rather than later.
So thrilled to hear that. I love hearing when a woman has found a good man that you can start a family with, that you're doing so, because the world needs that now more than ever before.
Yeah, and it is interesting because, a little over 9 months ago, I didn't know this man, and I haven't gotten support from everybody in my life. And honestly, 3-5 years ago, if my future self told me I'd be engaged within 9 months after knowing a man, I might be a little disappointed in my future self. But that viewpoint that I used to have is gone based on, life experience, work I've done on myself, things that you teach. And so it is, interesting to have friends that are shocked and a little worried, but to be honest, there's no worry in any part of me about this. So it's a nice feeling.
So what you're saying is that some people in your life are skeptical because the amount of time you two have been together?
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's correct. And I know some people think that, we need to be dating for 2, 3, 4 years to really experience the ups and the downs, which I get where they're coming from. But it's also like, okay, do I have to wait on a family death before I get engaged to the man I'm dating? And I know it's coming from a place of care, but I take it with a grain of salt.
I'm really glad to hear that. It is so disheartening to me and dismaying that our modern culture, especially in the West, has propagated this nonsense. Statistically, there is nothing backing up the presumption that a longer time together will render you having a completely committed relationship that goes the distance. I actually push back on it every chance I get because it's not how men work, and neither is it at all helpful. I'll give you a couple of reasons why I believe that to be the case. Here's what statistics tell us, because what can generally happen? The waiting doesn't allow for us to make the commitment when we are hormonally and in all other ways, the most excited about the relationship. Then, if we keep going, the man's interest wanes. We are trying to fit men into what works for women, because women bond through time and sex. Men don't. Men bond in only one way, and that is through making a formal commitment from their decision. This I got from therapist Bob Grant, and once I got it, it helped spur all of my stuff, the 5 gender gaps, everything in my book, the puppy principle, all of it. If we don't understand that and the foundational differences between men and women, we hurt ourselves and we hurt men, and we end up hurting society. Because here's the unfortunate truth. If we are with a man for a certain amount of time and we go by what modern Western culture is telling us, what can generally happen with two adults is, well, we should likely then, if we're going to see this through and see if we are really compatible, is we move in together. You move in together. Here's the unfortunate truth. 50% of first marriages end in divorce. It's like 49%, but let's make it easy. 50% of first marriages, meaning both the man and the woman, first time marriage, they end in divorce. Second marriages, the statistic goes up to 62%. 62% of second marriages fail, and approximately 70 to 73% of third marriages fail. If two people who have never been married, so it's going to be a first-time marriage, if they live together prior to getting married, their rate of divorce goes up to 62%, which is the second marriage statistic. It is raised. Living together does not help you have a better chance of going the distance. It actually lessens your chance to a great degree. So you may say, well, okay, we would just continue to date for 4 years. That doesn't serve women well at all. You have less of a chance of getting the man there because the patina is off of the relationship. He's not as excited about it. He doesn't function that way. He functions best by being most enthralled and excited and making a formal decision that bonds him. So a woman in it for 4 years, she's going to fall under the sunk cost fallacy. Meaning, for women, because time is so important for us, for reasons that aren't too positive necessarily. But for example, we know that men value youth and attractiveness and fertility in terms of bonding, whether or not they end up having children. So the longer we hold off marrying doesn't help us. But we have this sum cost fallacy, which is, I put in all this time, so I got to keep waiting a little more, a little more, a little more. And pretty soon, years go by, that man can leave because he hasn't bonded through making a decision, and women are left. This is playing out in our society in such a big way that we are in a fertility crisis. 50% of women over the age of 30 will not have children. We are in such a fertility decline as nations are scrambling to figure out what to do because we are not going to have enough young people to take care of the aging population that we have created. We are not replacing ourselves. We can look at the causes are myriad. Only one of them is what we are addressing right here, which is I need to know everything about this person. I need to see them through every possible scenario and have 100% assurance that everything's going to work out. That doesn't fall under the precepts of life. There are no assurances. We must, to continue on, go with the inconvenient truths that we know about men. Men are lost in a way never before seen in history because they are lacking the guidance which is precipitated by what is happening in modern society of what we are talking about here. I can tell you, Esme, that if it means anything to you, how you have done this and the timeline you are doing it in is excellent in my book. Here's why. Men need the commitment born from the decision to go through the ups and downs you will be going through for the next 4 years and onward. Life isn't going to be a bowl of cherries just because you marry. There are going to be a lot of things. I get back to the puppy principle. For us, we love all puppies, big, tall, short, small. When we are ready to adopt, we go out and we find one. We make a formal public commitment to it. Even though we love them all, we pick one. Okay, with puppies, maybe 2, but you get the idea. You pick one, you make the formal commitment to it. You go and you adopt it, or you buy it, however you get that puppy. You then bring it home, you've put a ring around it, meaning the collar. You make space for it. You put money into it. The vet bills, the this, the that. However you deem you want to take care of the little love. Now, when you go through the little thing, messing up, chewing your shoes, causing problems, having to train it, being responsible to it, coming home after work, not just doing what you feel like, because it has to be taken care of, paying the bills if it gets sick, etc. You do it. Most typically, if you've got any conscientiousness about you, you see it through the hard times. And nary a person just gets rid of it. Certainly women don't, typically. But again, we're talking about puppies, but you get the analogy. It is best for the man to make that formal public commitment, because as a woman, if you love him, you are bonded already through time and sex. Within the first year is the best time. He's not going to be more excited about you as time goes on. That's just male. Just like with us, we love all puppies. If we don't commit to one, we keep allowing all the different ones in and out, loving on them, whatever. You see what I mean?
Yes, yeah. And I agree that 9 months for me, based on my own personal comfort level, plus the things that you teach, I feel like it's the perfect sweet spot.
I agree. Here's the other thing people don't take into account now, which is really sad. You're now engaged. You're going to be planning a wedding. When is that?
To be honest, I don't know. But, because first we have to figure out, is it a small wedding, a big wedding, eloping, which I personally am partial to just eloping or having like a micro wedding. But short answer, I think it will be probably at the end of this year or early next year.
Love it. What's interesting to me that we've also come to is this. Women say to me all the time when I say, do you love him? Would you want to be married to him if he asked you to? They'll say, yeah, but I have questions. But. I say, let's look at the worst case scenario. You allow him to get to the point whereby he proposes. You have a little bit of uncertainty. We are going to see the best of him because he's made a decision to commit. Well, you can make the engagement a year. And then I'll immediately get, well, I wouldn't want to break off an engagement. I wouldn't want to say yes and then not go through with it. But yet, the statistic is that 50% of first marriages end in divorce. I would like to see us flip it. Get engaged. Much easier to break off an engagement than undo a marriage and go through divorce. You will see the best of the man. You will absolutely know. And it is a better way to do it, in my book. We've somehow made it not a great thing to break off an engagement, but pretty easy and okay to get divorced. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So I don't have any reservations about yours. Knowing what I do from what you told me on the podcast and when we talked, and now I'm really thrilled for you.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate it. And thank you for all of the work you do to help women like me get here, because, as great as I think I am, if I hadn't come across your teachings, there probably would have been a lot more misstep along the way. For example, like he had proposed, I shouldn't say proposed, he suggested moving in together sometime around, I think, early March, maybe mid-March. And I had thoughts on it, but one thing, and I provided some feedback of where I think we should live and what we should do, but I did tell him, like, I'm not moving in with a boyfriend. I'm going to live with my future husband, and that's it. So things like that throughout the way, I think, got me here sooner and got me here in a better fashion, if that makes sense, without veering off track too much and having to force things back on the path and, overcompensate and things like that.
Exactly. That's so great. You did it perfectly. It's simply that, because it's simply like the puppy principle. If you are just going to test out the puppy, when it poops on the floor continuously, chews your Jimmy Choos, causes issues, barking and the neighbors don't like it, whatever it is, you're much more apt to, no, I don't need this, I can't do this, and get out of it. And where things end there with the puppy principle is that with people, keep that statistic in your mind, that if you had moved in, even if you marry from living together prior to getting engaged, I want to make that caveat. If you move in together prior to getting engaged, your chance of divorce goes up to a second marriage chance of divorce, which is 62%. So, interestingly enough, there's been quite a bit written on this, and every expert weighs in, and they can't figure out, well, what that is. Why is it that people who live together prior to getting engaged, even if they do marry, the statistic goes up to the second marriage statistic of divorce? To me, it's simply that. He didn't make a decision prior to moving in, and you have guided him in just a firm but feminine way. I would love living with you, but I just wouldn't live with any man with whom I'm not engaged to be married. And I think the best thing is, okay, we're engaged. We start planning and make a date. Then you can move in, if that floats your boat. But this is the even better way. It's going to feel wonderful that you move in with your husband. You get a place together, and you both decided on it. It's not just him moving into yours or yours with him. And even if it is, it's been a decision and you're now married. Feels very different.
Yeah, and that's a good reminder about the wedding date, because we don't officially have that. So, yeah, like you said earlier, it's still important to stay on track through engagement and through marriage. So I don't want to jump off the wagon yet.
No, but here's what I believe is best for you now. Live in the knowing. It's happening. Everything's in place. Don't let anything veer you off of that. Don't let any subconscious programming, any prior experiences with men, trust. The affirmations for you: I am stepping into trust. I am trusting. I have found my husband. I trust my husband. Ivan is my forever one. The tides of destiny have turned. Everything now comes my way.
Yeah, I like that.
Keep those positive affirmations in your mind. Again, so happy for you, and thank you so much for doing this today and sharing your story. It's so meaningful for other women to hear it and know it, hold on to it, and know more of the how along the way.
Yes, thank you, Paula. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me again.
And I appreciate you doing that as well. Thank you so much. I trust you got a lot of good information from this full episode of Make Him Wonder. But information is not transformation. So if you are continuing to get information but not make any movement towards your goals, I'd be happy to help you with that. You can have a personalized discussion with me here on the podcast, as you may have heard, or in a private consultation. You can also talk to me on any of my YouTube or Instagram lives. There is a way we are doing that now, so we can actually talk with one another anonymously. There are so many ways that we can work together. If you are wanting to find a Mr. Right, get an ex back, or grow an existing relationship with a man you truly desire so you create the relationship of your dreams and level up to the complete commitment you totally deserve. I hope you will take action and reach out to me at coachpaulagrooms.com, as I am honored to help you get the relationship you desire and deserve.